Morning, folks. Welcome to our channel. It's the 18th of January 2018, and here in 15 minutes you get more news than anywhere else on the channel. We have kind of an exclusive for you today. We'll talk about it in a minute. Subscribe, discover, never stop learning, and pray we can stay on the air. The elites are now stealing everything you own, just like they said they would. The story is coming to you because we have Virtual Shield, and therefore we can actually write a story. Ever wonder why you're broke all the time? Why you can't get ahead and there's no money in your wallet? You look in your wallet and you say, dang, that just cost such and such. Well, it seems that there's nothing in this country that's not corrupt. From our schools taking kickbacks for vaccinating our children whose profits fund ISIS, to the VA not taking care of those who incurred physical injuries in war in order to get large bonuses. That's right, the directors of the VA get bonuses for denying health care to those who were physically injured in a time of war. Last night we stood outside and listened to the pitter-patter of rain and looked at every living room window as they were being, shall we say, conditioned by the television. And I listened to the high-pitched buzz of the power lines and the cell towers as it affected our brain and our abilities to think. What you're about to hear and see is going on all across America, not just here in the little town that I live in. Going on from Los Angeles to Boston, from Chicago to Miami. We get calls from people all the time and they're doing the same thing. So in order to bring it home to you, we'll focus on our little town here in Tacoma, Washington. It's a town of about 200,000 whose high taxes have driven away almost all industries. So we've got some real problems in the inner cities because the only jobs in the inner cities are the hospitals and you have to be qualified to work there. In a few days ago, it was brought to our attention that a nearby home just sold for $379,000 instead of its appraised value last month of $230,000. So they reappraised it at, I think, $280,000, and they could buy it for $279,000. Further, some homes in the neighborhood are now shooting up in value from $180,000 and $200,000 over $350,000. So why? You've got to ask the question, why are our neighbors' houses almost doubling in value in 1 month? Why should home values rise in a town that's mostly funded through welfare? Welfare is going away. Turns out that in our fair city, as in many other cities, the city has just approved a measure that allows the Port of Tacoma, recently merged with the Port of Seattle, to expand without the customary permits. And they are definitely planning on expansion. Why? Well, there are two reasons for this. And how does that affect you in your little town that you're sitting in Illinois or Indiana or Georgia or Texas or Montana, or maybe you're in South or North Dakota? It appears that Jeff Bezos of Amazon, for example, is now building warehouses across all metropolitan areas in this country. And he's demanded that you pay for the expansion of the infrastructure. Here is the new Puget Sound map. And it goes from DuPont, where the Amtrak train was blown off the tracks. They have a large Amazon factory, warehouse, right back in here, connected to a lot of very underground structures, very secret structures, occupied. The lights are on, the heat's on, but there's no cars around them, and there's a lot of material being brought underground in this area, all the way up here to Everett, to their last warehouse. So they're building a $58 billion expansion line to go from Amazon to Amazon. Why? Because they think they're going to get a lot of jobs. So it appears that the industry is demanding that you pay for their expansion here. So here in the Puget Sound, the local plan to expand the transit, $58 billion in order to support these incoming jobs. What this means to us, and this is happening nationwide, remember, from Arkansas to New Mexico, all the way up to New York and Maine, and all across Minnesota, Wisconsin, and down through Kansas and Nebraska. This kind of philosophy is reigning. What this means to you and I is a few jobs will be added to Everett, a massive job influx into Seattle as the government-supported Amazon increases its footprint in Seattle, and a large complex back here of Amazon with their underground tunnels. I've seen them. So that means you're going to pay for this new infrastructure, this new light rail system. Is it based on a magnetic rail system? Nope. All they're doing is rebuilding the lines. was initially being rebuilt for several reasons. We'll get into that. Not to include the FEMA camps that are now all over this place. But anyway, what this means to you and I is there will be a few jobs brought in. Car tabs are based on the value of your car 5 years ago in a new state valuation system, and will top over $1,500 a year to register your car to drive on their roads. But the registration tabs don't pay for the roads. They pay for the transit systems, which is illegal under the state constitution because it's discrimination against those who can afford new cars. But that being said, you're still going to have to pay $1,500 or not get tabs to be able to drive on the state-owned roads. The governor simply, we voted 3 times for a $30 tab, just like they have across the nation. And the governor each time illegally ruled against it and allowed Sound Transit to add this money. Because remember, money talks, BS walks. And if somebody starts paying state representatives to bring a warehouse into DuPont, and a warehouse into Everett, and a large corporate headquarters into Seattle, and a little money changes hands, and things get built. So the governor has simply overridden the people. An increase in local taxes, such as sales tax, gas taxes, and taxes on warehouses, increased taxes on land. For example, I'll do this as a for example, because this is more for example. For example, here in Tacoma, without the vote of the people, which is illegal, the city of Tacoma has illegally raised taxes on a home from 1% to 2% over the last 10 years. So what does this mean? This money is being used for building infrastructures for corporations. It's called corporate welfare. So what does this mean? It means if you're a retired person living in a $150,000 home and it hasn't changed much in value in the last 10 years because the economy still sucks. So it really stinks. So what that means is now that they're going to expand the Port of Tacoma, what's going to happen is your home is now valued at $300,000 and the tax rate has doubled. So instead of paying $130 a month, you're now paying $600 a month in taxes. Hardly sustainable if you're a retired person living on $1,200 a month. There's the Port of Tacoma. It's kind of small here, just these little areas, and it's going to expand and buy large areas of land to attract the factories to come into the city of Tacoma. Not bad for the city of Tacoma. There's a huge push for the sales right along here. They're bringing in a rail system. The sales of coal and compressed liquid natural gas overseas as friendly terrorists. Yeah, I like that word. That was brought forward by the State Department yesterday. Friendly terrorists disrupt natural gas supplies worldwide, and U.S. sanctions attempt to shut down the other natural gas pipelines to support these U.S. oil companies. So we're building the liquid natural gas storage facilities right in here so the ships can come in, take the frozen compressed natural gas, and bring it to countries like Indonesia and China. Therefore, they're going to buy U.S. natural gas. Now you think, well, why would they buy natural gas that costs them 3 times the price of what they're getting it for at home? Well, consider the city of Tacoma. We have generators for dams that aren't being used that sell electricity at 0.33 cents a kilowatt hour, and we're buying it from coal and oil plants that sell it for 1 to 1.5 cents a kilowatt hour, thus increasing the cost of our wholesale electricity by 5 times. Remember, money talks, BS walks. So we shut down the generators of the dams and supply the electricity for the city of Tacoma with oil and gas, thus increasing the pollution and the destruction of planet Earth. But money talks, BS walks. So when they expand this port, have all the LNG facilities, they'll just pay off a few managers who produce power, and bingo, we're selling natural gas to countries like Indonesia. All of these expansions across the country have been done under the guise of Code of Federal Regulation 33, where quasi-illegal regional governments seize land under eminent domain and build their corporate empires. And yes, Sound Transit is a corporate empire. It's a private corporation. The expansion actually began Nobody's talking about this. So here's the $1,500 car renewal for Washington State, which is happening all over the country. You think that you're isolated. Here's the Port of Tacoma. Leaders make the Amazon pitch. They think Amazon's going to put their corporate headquarters in Tacoma. I don't think so. Here's the liquid natural gas expansion in the city of Tacoma. Now this means jobs for Tacoma. A couple hundred here, a couple there. Here it is. The Northwest Seaport Alliance, Tacoma and Seattle, have merged. No monopoly there. Why Seattle-Tacoma maritime rivals merged? The proposed budget where they're receiving $2 trillion in taxes and spending $2 billion a year and spending $2.2 billion. Which means the budget's a farce. If we look at the comprehensive annual financial report for the merged ports, the Northwest Seaport Alliance, as reported on the Securities and Exchange Form 40 and 80, we'll see a totally different picture. That's why they can expand a $58 billion rail system. So all we're doing is we're building corporate empires. The expansion began 9 years ago when President Obama started moving U.S. military assets from Western Europe to the Far East for preparation for war with either China, North Korea, or both. A war, we might mention, that will no longer happen. Those Jesuits working for the CIA and the U.S. Naval Top Secret Program in Norfolk, Virginia, who have been attempting to create nuclear false flags and start a nuclear conflict, have been identified and tagged along with the Virginia governors who have been complacent in the crimes. So here in Tacoma, back to reality, the merged ports of Tacoma and Seattle are now in the process of expanding and are now buying for the new corporate job centers being brought back into the country, thanks to our President Trump, Trump, by companies like Apple, Amazon, Ford, Chrysler, all across the gamut. They're coming to America. And on a side note, which is neither here nor there in reference to the story, but you will find it very interesting. There's the Port of Tacoma. Hires a lot of people down there, brings in a lot of jobs. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. Except we're building empires using taxpayers' money. That's called National Socialism. You hurt your friends and destroy your enemies. The other need for the Puget Sound Transit here in Seattle region is to fund a particular corporation that is run by a former CIA director that directly affects elections in Russia. President Putin is fully aware of the name of this corporation and their director, and I've been told he will deal with them when the time is right. He knows what's going on. He knows that part of the money for the Port of Tacoma goes to a particular agency just north of here, and he's aware of their interference in Russian elections. He will deal with it when he wants to deal with it. He's the president of Russia. And there it is, making a pitch for Amazon headquarters. Everybody wants that headquarters. One last thing about the Puget Sound Transit. And this is something that will never be on the news except on our TV program, which I did for 2.5, 3 years. One of the most interesting stories coming out of the Sound Transit expansion is the number of ancient tunnels they've run into under the Puget Sound. Several workers have told us at the TV station I used to broadcast news from back in 2012 that the massive ancient tunnels they've uncovered, including pyramids under Queen Anne Hill. These tunnels have caused certain project delays as equipment falls into these tunnels. And so the construction of this rail system, specifically in this region, is running into, especially around here, is running into huge cost overruns because of the massive underground tunnels and the pyramids they found when they were digging the tunnel. Unbelievable, but true. I know, I'm not supposed to say unbelievable, but there it is. Tunnels everywhere, as if there were underground cities tens of thousands of years ago that have been abandoned. These tunnels have been tiled, and they're very ancient. And in other news affecting you, which is incredible news, you're going to just love it. Apparently we can't, we'll see if we can't pull up that story, folks. There it is. There it is. It was dropped off our computer. Sorry about that. ICE plans major sweep in San Francisco area. Yep. The state of California has acted as a sanctuary city and a sanctuary state for illegal aliens. And what that means is they've been concentrated specifically in San Francisco and the Los Angeles area. So the Governor Moonbeam has been concentrating these illegal aliens in the San Francisco area because welfare is great, the climate's great. So there are tens of thousands of illegal aliens living in San Francisco. Follow the money. So what's happening is ICE has gone into, Immigration Services has gone into the city of San Francisco and said, we want the names and addresses of everyone collecting a welfare check. And they said no, and they said, okay, we'll shut off your money and we'll start arresting people. Follow the money, folks. So in a way, Governor Moonbeam, Jerry Brown, has made it very easy to round up these illegals, because he's now got them all in one spot. So if you think California is a great place to be for an illegal, think again, because that's where ICE is going to start rounding them up. And with the arrest and resignation of so many Democratic statesmen for raping children, I mean, their congressmen are dropping like flies, and the reapportioning of the state due to several million illegals, there might be hope yet for that city. And if we manage to cancel the rule of law, which means that the judges make the rules, not you. The rule of law means judges make the rules, and you as the people have no say. I want you to think about that. The rule of law means judges make the rules. You have no say. So if we cancel the rule of law, put in some decent judges and arrest a few for treason, we might just make that state great again. Please pray that good things happen to California immediately, and pray for President Trump's safety as he and Jeff Sessions have ordered the rounding up of those who are here illegally, and he's going to send them back to their country. Wouldn't it be nice if they rounded up all 20 million illegals and sent them back with, say, a couple $1,000s in their pocket so they can reestablish themselves? Please pray as the illegals go home that they find jobs that are good and decent. It's one thing to round them up and arrest them for breaking the law, but it's another thing because if they have families, they need to feed their kids. And the kids did no wrong. They were just hanging out with the parents. So pray that those being sent home can find new jobs and support their kids. God bless to each and every one of you. Thank you for watching. You are the best audience, and now you know how these elites are raping our country. God bless to each and every one of you. Thank you, and good night.